Hello and welcome to TVP World. You're watching World News Tonight, coming to you live from Warsaw, Poland. My name is Anna Kalczyńska. Good evening. He has no plan to end the war, says Volodymyr Zelenskyy about Donald Trump, adding that the American president is being manipulated by Vladimir Putin. More on that in just a moment, but first, let's take a look at the latest headlines. Anti-far-right protests held in Germany as Elon Musk makes reappearance at an AfD rally. Karina, Daniel, Naama and Liri are free. The second hostage exchange between Israel and Hamas successfully completed. There is one famous palm tree in Poland and it's artificial. Now scientists have developed a new set of leaves to spruce up the landmark. Volodymyr Zelenskyy said Vladimir Putin has been trying to manipulate efforts by US President Donald Trump to secure a peaceful end to the war. The Ukrainian president also said the head of the country's foreign intelligence service reported about Russia's rising military potential and Putin's readiness to continue the war while manipulating world leaders against Ukraine. We are now moving to Kiev, where our correspondent Oz Katerji is. Good evening, Oz. In light of this new intelligence coming from Ukraine, what are the chances for peace?
Well, there is still no idea even when negotiations will potentially start, and the two sides do have very little that they can agree on at this time. So there is very little hope that there can be any sort of negotiations at this point. Now, these words from Volodymyr Zelenskyy come as Vladimir Putin started using words that would appeal to Donald Trump, talking about how the election had been stolen from him, and had that election not been stolen from him, perhaps he might not have invaded Ukraine after all. Now, Zelenskyy is obviously warning of manipulation here. Let's take a listen to what the Ukrainian president had to say.
I received the report from the head of the Foreign Intelligence Service on Russia's military potential and Putin's readiness to continue the war and manipulate world leaders. Specifically, he is trying to manipulate the US president's desire to achieve peace. I am confident that no Russian manipulations will succeed any longer.
Well, obviously, this situation is ongoing. We're not any closer to finding any kind of resolution here. But, Donald Trump is certainly talking a big game. However, they're scant on details, provided very little detail on anything that they could even potentially start beginning to talk about.
Also, now the second issue, Volodymyr Zelenskyy and the president of Moldova issued a joint statement about the readiness of both countries to transfer energy supplies to the separatist Moldovan region of Transnistria. What more do we know about this case?
Well, look, this energy issue is not going away with Hungary, not going away with Slovakia, and not going away with Moldova. At least in Moldova, Zelenskyy has a very willing partner there dealing there. So let's take a listen to that joint conference and what they both had to say earlier.
People there badly need this assistance because they're already suffering because they have no heating, they have no electricity. But now it's for the regime in Tiraspol to accept this assistance, this help, and to make sure that people get heating and electricity as soon as possible.
If we give them coal, we are ready to talk about a low price, even free of charge, if we can get electricity instead of coal. Which is fair. We give them coal, they have electricity for themselves, for all of Moldova. We get electricity for ourselves if we need to import and don't have enough, right? And we give the extra electricity to Moldova. I think that if you think about people, it's a very clear scheme.
So both leaders there finding a reciprocal agreement that can help both sides. And the Transnistria, obviously the Russian interest there. So one to watch as this goes forward with the ongoing energy situation in Moldova. Back to you in the studio.
Oz Katerji, thank you very much, Oz. The German capital now, which is seeing a protest today against what the organizers call a shift to the right, quote. After the collapse of Olaf Scholz's ruling coalition last year, Germany is headed for a snap election in less than a month. Now, the far-right Alternative for Germany party kicked off its election campaign at noon today with a special guest, Elon Musk. Marek Steele has the story.
German politics has been strongly influenced by a recent string of violent attacks. The latest one in Aschaffenburg left a 2-year-old boy and a 41-year-old man dead. The alleged perpetrator was Afghani.
It is very sad. One is afraid to go outside, honestly.
Subsequent attacks by immigrants have sparked a reaction from the German government.
We have ensured that things are changing. We have made it easier to be deported.
But despite these measures, illegal migration has become one of the main topics in the election campaign, ahead of a snap parliamentary vote scheduled for February 23rd. The anti-immigrant far-right Alternative for Germany has just launched its election campaign.
Denn wir müssen Deutschland retten.
Because we have to save Germany, because our fatherland has gone into a blatant imbalance. No problem drives people as much as having to watch our cities become increasingly unsafe.
Among the speakers at Saturday's rally was American tech billionaire Elon Musk.
It's okay to be proud to be German. This is a very important principle. It's okay, it's good to be proud of German culture, German values.
The AfD's rally held in Saxony-Anhalt was accompanied by a protest and scuffles with police. In Berlin and Cologne, protests are being held against the rise of the far right in Germany.
30% for Alternative for Germany is 30% too much, and we are here to send out a signal that perhaps 1 or 2 people will reconsider what a rotten party it is.
German opinion polls indicate a likely victory of the Christian Democrats. The AfD has a chance of becoming the second largest party in parliament, while Olaf Scholz's ruling Social Democrats are trailing with an average of only 17% support. Despite the AfD rising in popularity, the party has little chance of becoming a key player, as most of Germany's political class has rejected cooperation with the far right.
We will send this weekend to the parties of Chancellor Scholz's former coalition our requests to change the migration policy that we intend to submit in the Bundestag next week. We will not send anything to the AfD.
With the Christian Democrats leading in the polls, but most likely short of a parliamentary majority, the alliance led by Friedrich Merz could be forced to form a coalition with the Social Democrats, but also the Greens.
And Polish-German relations are back in the spotlight as Friedrich Merz, the German Conservative Party's candidate for chancellor, has proposed a new friendship treaty. This could mark a fresh chapter between the two nations in Central Europe. Sasha Farbach has the details.
From Berlin to every corner of Germany, the countdown is on as elections are just weeks away. Friedrich Merz, leader of the Conservative Party in Germany, is positioning himself to lead as the country's next chancellor. Among many key topics, he's emphasizing Poland's central role in a strong European partnership.
I propose that we sign a German-Polish friendship treaty on the occasion of the 35th anniversary of this German-Polish neighbourhood treaty, which will raise our bilateral relations to a new level.
Despite a complicated and at times painful history, the 1991 German-Polish Treaty was a historic milestone, paving the way for Poland's European integration. Germany became an early and vital partner for Warsaw as the two nations turned reconciliation into a shared vision for Europe's future. The new treaty is seen by some as a new beginning.
We need new symbols. We need this new start and this relaunch of Polish-German relations.
This new path in relations between the two countries was also affirmed recently at the opening of the new Polish embassy in the German capital by Poland's Foreign Minister Radosław Sikorski.
In order to prepare our European community for incoming challenges, we need friendly, close and predictable relations with Germany.
Warsaw and Berlin have shared close economic ties and have a new impetus for more cooperation. An aggressive Russia challenging peace in Europe. This has brought Germany and Poland closer together on security, with Germany's defense minister Boris Pistorius recently in Poland to deliver a new Patriot missile system, a clear sign of deeper cooperation ahead.
In tandem, these two countries have, first of all, the economic weight, the military weight, and the political credibility if the Merz government takes over to provide an impulse for the rest of Europe to take a serious look at the problems it faces.
Germany and Poland share a complex history. Their future is marked by strategic ties with the potential to influence the entire European continent.
A protest marshal was hit by a car amid the intensifying anti-government protests in Serbia. President Alexander Vučić responded to the growing unrest by holding a counter-rally. Sonia Agata-Biszczan has more.
This is a clip from the latest anti-government protest in Serbia. The injured protest marshal was immediately transported to the emergency center by ambulance, having allegedly suffered skull fractures. Students launched a series of anti-government strikes after a Novi Sad railway station roof collapsed back in November, resulting in the death of 15 people. In the protesters' view, the tragedy was caused by corruption, nepotism, and poor construction practices. The lack of accountability for the disaster has ignited a surge of protests, which have since expanded in both scale and intensity. Tens of thousands responded to the students' call for a general strike on Friday, with schools, bookstores, and theaters across Serbia closing their doors in solidarity.
It seems to me that the people are increasingly waking up, as you see by the growing number of people taking to the streets. They seem less afraid about their jobs or threats from the authorities, which leads to a daily increase in our numbers on the streets.
This strike, of course, signifies our endorsement of students and is aimed at transforming the state of the nation and the state of education, which is our joint interest here. First of all, we're here to support the students and then, if feasible, to change the state of education.
As the anti-government protests intensify across Serbia, the country's president held a counter-rally to demonstrate that both him and the ruling Serbian Progressive Party, which he founded, still enjoy public support. Referring to the students' protest, he said,
Our people know, my people know, that Serbia is attacked from outside and inside.
In Novi Sad, 13 individuals, among them a former Minister of Infrastructure, have been indicted for their involvement in the roof collapse incident. However, the court is yet to approve the indictment. The government denies responsibility for the deaths.
Karina Arif, Daniel Gilboa, Naama Levy and Liri Albak, 4 female soldiers of the Israeli Defense Forces, have been released by the Hamas terrorist group in Gaza as part of the ongoing ceasefire. This is the second release of people kidnapped by the terrorists on October 7th, since the truce has been reached. Kazimierz Łysiak reports.
Walking out on stage with what seemed to be gift bags, it would be difficult to tell at first glance that these 4 women have just escaped what likely has been the worst nightmare of their lives. A few moments later, their release was complete, to the cheers and tears of their families, who couldn't believe their loved ones were finally free.
It's been too long, but now that's it. They're on their way home, and we wait for all the other hostages.
The 4 soldiers were among the 251 people kidnapped by Hamas terrorists in a brutal attack on Israel on October 7, 2023. After more than a year of a resulting deadly and gruesome war in Gaza, the long-desired ceasefire has finally brought the first prisoner swaps. 7 Israelis have been released so far. Close to 100 are yet to be freed.
We cannot and will not forget The 90 hostages, including women, children, and elderly men, still remain in brutal conditions in Hamas captivity.
The freeing of prisoners taken on October 7th has been one of the main arguments behind Israel's devastating incursion into Gaza. An incursion which displaced hundreds of thousands of people and killed more than 40,000, according to the Hamas-controlled health ministry. Questions now remain whether the ceasefire can hold, given the region's volatility and Donald Trump's return to the White House.
The whole deal was possible only because President Trump sort of twisted hand of Prime Minister Netanyahu, and he was forced to agree for the deal which was ready in May last year. So if America will be consistent and it will still put enough pressure on Israel, then the deal will go on.
The future of the truce is already shrouded in uncertainty. The IDF has accused Hamas of breaking the terms of agreement by first releasing soldiers rather than civilians. In exchange for the full-service women, Israel has released 200 Palestinian prisoners. More than half of them were sentenced to life for their involvement in attacks on Israel.
And Poland is lagging behind all European countries except Romania when it comes to use of artificial intelligence by businesses. According to Eurostat, a mere 5.9% of Polish enterprises have tapped into AI technologies so far, which raises concerns over whether Poland might be scuppering opportunities for development in the midst of the disruptive AI revolution. Piotr Miszczuk has this report.
Whether it's emotional support for children or Thailand's Prime Minister speaking Mandarin, AI has become ever-present in recent months. But Polish companies still trail behind their European competitors, seemingly unable to fully tap into the possibilities AI technology has to offer. According to AI expert Lech Król, a short-sighted approach remains the most significant barrier to development.
We are still in the stage when we look for the fast profit, immediate gain, rather than planning it for a longer time. The other issue is our risk averse. So we are very much concentrated on the things which can hurt us.
Poland is reportedly planning to invest over 1 billion euros in promoting AI, but it's not exactly in high demand.
We did not invest in IT technologies earlier, so maybe we should find the money. That's the first thing. The second is encourage, and the third is training programs. Maybe obligatory training programs. So people should be actually forced to start using AI.
Some of those efforts, however, are said to have been successful, like the startup Zenzen, which is developing an AI-based detector of anger in a speaker's voice.
There wouldn't be Zenzen, I think, if I wouldn't receive a helpful hand one day from the public sector. Not money yet. Our particular case, it was the service called Innovation Coach, which linked the founder of the innovative project with a coach, an expert specialized in some particular area.
It seems a drop in the ocean compared to the amount of funding the US is prepared to allocate to AI development. On Wednesday, Donald Trump announced the formation of the Stargate venture, funded by three tech giants, OpenAI, SoftBank and Oracle.
A new American company that will invest $500 billion at least in AI infrastructure in the United States and very quickly, moving very rapidly, creating over 100,000 American jobs almost immediately.
And the whole of Europe needs to step up AI investment and embrace risk, according to Meta's scientific director of AI, Yann LeCun.
And then there is the fear on the part of legislators and decision makers of the consequences, which leads to regulations that are sometimes premature, on risks that in fact don't exist, and that kills innovation.
But it might prove challenging for Poland to jump on board the AI hype train. Last week, the country wasn't included in the list of the closest US allies when it comes to sharing AI technology.
It's typical final days of every administration where all delayed decision, prepared or not, are published. However, we really do not see the interest, not even for the world and for the global chain of AI, but we cannot even see the interest for the US.
The decision particularly affects access to cutting-edge US-made NVIDIA chips that are deemed critical for AI development.
There's no such thing as a manual for making palm leaves, said Rafał Kozera from the Warsaw University of Technology. And yet the palm tree from the De Gaulle roundabout in Warsaw is sporting new leaves. The scientist who worked on the project emphasized that while developing new materials is part of the day-to-day, this is an assignment that those involved are unlikely to ever forget. Aisha Abachi has more.
Warsaw's iconic palm tree at the De Gaulle roundabout is sporting a fresh look with 74 brand new leaves. Each leaf is a 3-meter-long masterpiece weighing 15 kilograms and designed to sway naturally in the wind. This ambitious makeover, led by a team from the Warsaw University of Technology, was no ordinary task. Made from cutting-edge materials, these leaves are built to handle anything: wind, rain, snow, and even magpies looking for a place to nest. The Museum Modern Art commissioned employees of the Faculty of Materials, Science and Engineering at the Warsaw University of Technology to create new leaves for the landmark tree. 600 hours later, and with the help of the Lubas company specializing in metal manufacturing, the tree received a major restoration. The palm tree, created by artist Joanna Rajkowska in 2002, started as a one-year art installation, but quickly became a beloved symbol of Warsaw's creativity and flair. Now, thanks to its latest high-tech facelift, the palm tree is ready to sway for years to come. Reporting for TVP World, Aisha Abachi.
And we are coming back to Serbia, which held a general strike on Friday, called by the organizers a general civil disobedience, to which the citizens of Serbia have been called by students on a blockade. As the anti-government protests intensify across whole Serbia, the country's president held a counter-rally to demonstrate that both him and the ruling Serbian Progressive Party, which he founded, still enjoy public support. To unpack the difficult and complicated situation in Serbia, we are joined now by Spasimir Domaracki, political scientist, University of Warsaw and Institute of Central Europe. Good evening, sir.
Good evening.
Thank you for coming to the studio.
Thank you for the invitation.
So we understand it is sort of a generational protest, and we would like to understand where does this resolve of the youth stems from? And with Alexander Vučić at least officially taking a EU towards, a turn towards EU, is it, what does this protest actually mean? Is it a lack of simply trust for Alexander Vučić and his party?
Well, let's put it that way. Well, we observe that already for over 2 months we have these protests, and the youth, the students, are actually the only group that is not sufficiently infiltrated by Vučić's regime. Serbia is one of the textbook examples of state capture, in which you have nominally a democratic system with political elites that theoretically organize elections. But if you look at Vučić's experience, you will realize that he actually treats elections like a tool which allows him to continue remaining in power. And in this sense, if we even talk about a democratic system, its most essential mechanism of refreshing political elites is not working. In that sense, the students' protests are an example of how those who are not directly dependent by the regime can mobilize themselves when they see that actually the system does not only have the problem of taking over and steering the whole reality, but also that let's say these pathological political practices leads to disasters as the one in Novi Sad. And this disaster, this building tragedy that took place is an example how easily in such a reality you can become a victim of the system. And this is why the protests longed for already over 2 months. What happened yesterday is even more important because this is spilled over. It's spilled over throughout the whole society, and people are convinced that this model needs to have certain limits. Vučić sensed that the situation is deteriorating because several weeks ago he mentioned that Syrian scenario is not possible in Belgrade, but what you see with the persistence of the current protests is that indeed certain changes might appear on the horizon.
It's difficult to discredit young people which are clearly not affiliated with any political force, and also those young people inviting different social groups to join them, which is happening, by the way. So now Alexander Vučić has taken an effort to undermine the credibility of young people, saying that various forces, instructors from Western Eastern countries are trying to manipulate the public opinion. But is it working? And what are his chances of winning in this conflict?
Well, let's put it that way. Vučić is replicating the Russian rhetoric, which could be heard just yesterday, where the argument is that there is an active political operation aiming to destabilize. But this is every time when we see people's voices expressed in captured states, in authoritarian regimes, that the immediate response of the regime is that it is not possible that the people can protest, it must be steered from outside. So in that sense, Vučić's yesterday's rally in Jagodina is just another example which he practiced already for almost 13 years, and we need to be aware that he knows perfectly how this model works. He uses several tactics. The first one is to threaten, to oppress, to exert physical pressure on the protesters, to crush them, and on the other hand, to pretend that he is still, that the Serbians are behind him.
So what can happen in Serbia? Can it be practically the same as in Georgia's scenario, with people being arrested, simply taken out from the streets, with any opposition persecuted? What do you imagine can happen in Serbia now?
Maybe not the same scale as in Georgia, but we see examples of these attempts to beat people, to exert pressure. There are the arguments of the government officials who claim that all these things happen because of miscommunication. So there is, on one hand, awareness that we know what we do. On the other hand, we need to have a justification why we do it. And eventually, the hope is that these events will simply get silenced with the time. The problem is, however, that the public mobilization this time is much serious than during previous protests, and we need to remember that
those protests are really telling by being silent, by simply.
Exactly.
It's very telling. It's really loud.
It is, and on the other hand, the Serbs, I would say, persistently try to use this only tool in democratic countries, the peaceful protests, to express their opinions on what is happening in politics when they know that the political system doesn't function efficiently.
So Vučić says that the future of Serbia is not going to be decided on the street. But so what can happen now? I mean, where will this tug of war end? Do you imagine perhaps or expect European leaders to take a lead? After all, Serbia is a candidate country. We have seen Donald Tusk coming to Serbia speaking in Serbian. So European Union is very involved in this process. But somehow Vučić is also, he has to be also responding to any pressure from EU as well.
Indeed. However, we need to remember that on one hand, we should not vest too much hope within the EU in terms of meddling in internal affairs. The EU is very well aware that especially when the country is outside of the EU, what it can do is it can send political signals, it can send certain statements, but it will not interfere into what is happening in Serbia. On the other hand, it is much more important that, in a sense, these protests are also about the future of Serbia, its geopolitical orientation, its civilizational positioning, because the options on the table are only two, either in or out of the EU. Serbia is surrounded by the EU, is surrounded by NATO. Serbia is the only country actually in the Balkans that consciously conducts a policy that undermines its road towards the EU, the current political elites. And in that sense, we see that although Vučić is the EU's partner in Serbia, on the other hand, he is also the person who quite consciously sabotages all the Serbian efforts that are supposed to be done in order to come closer to a membership in the EU.
Spasimir Domaracki, thank you very much for your insights, for your expertise, for sharing it with us tonight.
Thank you very much.
Political scientist from University of Warsaw Institute of Central Europe was our guest tonight. Thank you very much for watching, and please stay tuned to TVP World for more news and for more comments.